Well, maybe now is a good time to start. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tasha Hicks, Assistant Director of Development with Harris County Community Services Department. And today, all of you have joined the Q&A meeting for the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery and CARES Act RFP that was released on April 28th. I will be answering as many questions as I can in the 1 hour time frame that was allotted for this meeting. You may also hear from Christy Lambright. She is CSD's Disaster Recovery and Resiliency Planning Director, and Ashley Brown, Senior Program Analyst, who will be reading your questions from the chat box out loud, which will now take me to the rules of engagement for the Q&A. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you noticed that your mic and your video have been disabled. That's because we kind of wanted to control the questions and be able to answer as thoroughly as possible and not get sidetracked. So please put your questions in chat, in the chat box. When you submit a question, please identify which application your question references. For example, if you have a disaster recovery related question, CDBG DR, then put DR first and then submit your question. Same thing with CDBG CV, put CV and then submit your question. If you have a question for both, then put both, submit your question, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, there may be some questions that may require us to research the answer or maybe discuss the answer discuss the question and maybe give an appropriate answer, the most accurate answer. In this case, we will post the question and answer to our website no later than May 16th. Hopefully, we will have the recording of this Q&A meeting and a list of questions and answers posted on our CSD website no later than May 16th. That's a Tuesday. Ding, ding. So you can look at the web address here. It's going to be located under funding opportunities on our CSD website under programs. Okay. This is the last slide before we get into the questions and answers. A quick update for those of you who already have registered with Bonfire and accessed the bid number 230098 for CDBG, DR, and CV. You may have noticed that there were so many required documents for the submission of one application. Bonfire has since been updated to delete many of those required documents as it's not relevant to this RFP. So if you haven't looked at Bonfire, go in there and look at it as soon as possible so you can see what documents you actually do need to download and submit and prepare. The other thing is, you probably have noticed that Bonfire only allows you to submit one application per registered email address. So yeah, that's complicated. But if you want to submit more than one application, you're allowed to submit up to 3 applications. You can combine all the applications and label them by project name and priority number. Again, you can submit up to 3. And that way you don't have to, I guess, get your coworkers to register and then submit one by one. If you have any other questions regarding Bonfire or this RFP, after today's meeting, please submit those questions to Jeremy Woodard, who is the purchasing agent for this RFP. He will get those questions to me and I will tackle them and try to get a quick turnaround for you so that you can have the answers that you need to complete your application and submit it in more than enough time. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back one slide and I'm going to keep it here so that those who are coming in a little bit later, they will know how to submit their questions in the chat. And so we'll go ahead and open it up. Ashley, do we have any questions?
So far, we have one question,
Okay.
and it does relate to both.
Okay.
She asked, do we have to rank even if one is CV and one is DR?
Hey, good question. Um, if there's only yes, yes, prioritize. Mhm. Which one? We'll treat it like our regular entitlement, yes. Any other questions?
So far, she's our only brave soul. Okay, we have another one on the CV application.
Okay.
Attachment T does
Mhm.
not seem to have an exhibit E.
Mm. So attachment T for CV does not seem to have an exhibit E. Let me look for this. I have the application up. The person who asked that question, put your name and agency in the chat box. Um, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't see an attachment E. I don't know if it's relevant for CDBG CV, but I want to research that and get back to you. And I'll post it. It'll be posted.
Okay. Next
And
question.
before I say that, let me see. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Exhibit E. Okay. Next question.
Okay, the next question is for both. Can you clarify how and where we rank our submissions if we have more than one?
So Bonfire is it's not really built to have multiple application submissions. And I knew that this would be tricky. I think we all knew that it would be tricky. We've had this in our entitlement once before for our 2022 action plan. The easiest way to do it would be to put it all in a PDF and have like a separating sheet of paper to say priority one, and then your application filled out with all of your attachments. And then you have a separating page and you say priority two, and then that application. So you're submitting one PDF. Okay. I hope that answers the question. If that is complicated or the bonfire system will not allow you to upload, um, maybe because the file is too big, then contact Jeremy Woodard and let him know your dilemma, and he will walk you through how to get all 3 applications or multiple applications uploaded to Bonfire.
Okay.
Is there another question?
Next is regarding CV.
Okay.
Just to confirm, if attachment is not listed in Bonfire, is not part of application, and is not required. Example, the subcontractor listing for attachment E.
Yes, it's not, and I so I am sorry, and that's why I needed to do my little research. What I did not put on the slide is, I knew that there might be some, um, documents that are still left on Bonfire that are not required, and I'm sorry I didn't say this in the beginning. If there are, required documents, if you have to submit a required document that does not pertain to the application you wanna submit, just submit one piece of paper that says NA so that the system will take it. I'm sorry that I didn't understand the question earlier, but that's what you do. You just submit a piece of paper that says not applicable, and then it'll take it. The bonfire will take the whole application submission, and we'll see that. We'll when we go in and download all of the attachments to review your application, we'll see that you put NA, and we'll know that it's not applicable anyway. So yes. I hope that answered the question.
And we have a clarification on the question earlier regarding the Exhibit E for the CV application.
Okay.
She notes that Exhibit E is asking for the budget information.
So, okay. So the attachment, which is attachment U, is the budget. Okay. So I'm not, I have to research the exhibit E to see what that is, but the budget is attachment U. Okay. So that's what you submit as the budget.
We have a question regarding both.
Okay.
Is there a maximum or minimum request for funding?
There's no minimum request. For CDBG-DR, the maximum is 600,000. Understanding that this is a grant for 1 year, the project will be 1 year, and the CDBG-DR funds must be expended by, I believe, August 2023, the end, somewhere up in there.
2024.
2024?
August
2024, I'm
And our
sorry, 2024.
and our minimum is, we would like to see at least 100,000. It's not
Okay.
written in stone, but, that is a better, I think, for all of us, more fruitful.
Okay,
So minimum 100,000 and maximum 600.
okay. And then for CV, then I would say a minimum of 100,000 and a maximum 1,000,000. Is that correct, Christie?
Sure.
Okay, sure.
We have no additional questions at this time. I'm sorry, strike that.
Okay.
Where is Harris County CDBG CV request for proposal cover sheet, the offerer's note?
Um, if it's not in the RFP general requirements, I'm not sure. Let me get back to you. I'll research that and give an answer. Um, all of the documents should be in Bonfire that are required. And so I'll make a note to ask Jeremy about it and see if we can't get that in Bonfire, if it's not already there in the RFP general requirements. Mm.
We have a request to please repeat the maximum and minimum for the CV.
The minimum for CV is 100,000, maximum is 1,000,000.
This question is regarding CV. Are there minimum experience requirements or a preference?
In the guidebook, there's the minimum what we would like to see for DR, and I believe it's 2 years. I'll have to double check, but it's in the guidebook. Uh, what we would like to see is minimum requirements.
You said for DR, they're asking you about CARES.
Oh, they're asking me, I'm sorry. It would be the same. It's the same. The guidebook is related to DR and CARES. And I'm looking at the guidebook now. Let's see.
There are no additional questions as of this time. Okay, Tasha,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a question for both.
Okay.
This also relates back to the previous question. Do applicants need to have experience with CDBG and or HUD?
The application for CDBG CV asks if the organization has experience with HUD programs. It's weighed in the evaluation, um, but it's not necessary, but it is weighed in our evaluation of the project. And I'm not sure, Christy, what about DR?
That's the same.
Okay.
We have a question regarding CV. Are there any restrictions on what can be funded?
CV, we're looking for project activities that are public services or homeless services that tie back to COVID. The PPR, which is prepare, prevent, and respond to COVID. So as long as your project attempts to prepare, prevent, and respond to COVID and it's public service and homeless related, no. We can do building improvements if it's expanding the capacity to um, engage in testing um, or treating COVID-19, testing for or treating COVID-19.
Okay. We have a question for DR. Can DR funds be used for capital expenses?
No, that would not be an eligible use. When we say capital assets, I am assuming we are meaning to repair, or to renovate, or to create a new building that would house the service. I'm assuming that is what we're talking about, and that is a different type of funding than public services under CBG DR. If my assumption is erroneous, just put it in the chat, please.
Okay, while we wait to see if they have any feedback. CV, can you please confirm the decision date timeframe when the grant term year begins for use of funds?
Oh, repeat that question.
Can you please confirm the decision date timeframe and when the grant term year begins for the use of funds?
Okay, so that is part of the timeline and if I'm not mistaken, we're looking to select the project activities in July, and then it would take probably about 45 days to get the contract after that. So it would be in this summer, about August 2023. Is that correct? Did I say the correct year this time? Christy, I would think so, according to the timeline. And the timeline could change, but yes.
Okay. For DR, which disasters are being included in this batch? Harvey was DR 17. Are there specific distinctions for this cycle of funding and the determination of disaster?
So for the CDBGDR, let me try to give a thorough answer as I research this. We're looking for projects that are going to benefit low income or presumed low income populations that were affected by Hurricane Harvey, or those who live in an area that were affected by Hurricane Harvey, or serve persons who receive services through CSD's CDBG DR housing program or the buyout program. So it's basically soliciting project activities to serve those who are affected by Hurricane Harvey, but also to assist in uncovering, I mean, overcoming unmet needs or increasing financial stability for future disasters. So I know that was a lot, but it's Hurricane Harvey and um, trying to get those who are affected by Hurricane Harvey stable to deal with any future disasters. That made sense. Christy, was that kind of right? That right? Or
I'm sorry,
wasn't
Tasha, could you repeat the question?
it? I'm saying, did that sound right? Because it was wordy. So it's yes, it's Hurricane Harvey and future disasters. It's
Uh,
just my explanation was kind of wordy.
The question being is what is this funding for? Which disasters? It's Hurricane Harvey, yes.
Yeah.
And not future, it's just Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, it's just Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah,
Okay.
mitigation is future. These funds, DR funds, are for 2017 granted funds, which was for Hurricane Harvey.
Okay.
Question for CV. Attachment P in the downloaded documents is regarding Section 3 utilization, but in Bonfire it is labeled as Obligation Summary Contract Awardees. Is that the same Attachment P?
That's a Jeremy Woodard question. I think so. I'll write this question down and ask Jeremy but that's a Jeremy Woodard question. The purchasing agent. You can see his
So
email
I'm
address.
looking at, and this is in the CV, maybe it's in the CV,
Mhm.
because I'm looking at one of the applications and I download P and it's section 3 utilization, but let me see if they're the other file type P's and yep. It looks like the top portion supporting documentation has A through V and P is section 3. And then there is a secondary requested information section that has another attachment P, which is obligation summary contract awardees. Interesting. It looks like we have two lists and they're slightly different. Tasha.
Yes. Yes, I'll contact Jeremy.
For both, there does not appear to be a place to upload Attachment F references in Bonfire. Is this required?
I will have to check with I'll have to check with Jeremy to see if it is and to see if it was just missed.
For DR, it shows the funds to be used for adult education and workforce training, financial empowerment and coaching. Can that be to help people being serviced by the current rapid rehousing and diversion clients? If so, how do we verify and show that they were affected by Harvey?
So in other programs that we have doing this, as part of the intake, a question is asked, were you affected by Harvey? If the client says yes, then you note that in your intake file and you move forward. If they say, no, I lived in Kansas at the time, then that person would not be eligible as a Hurricane Harvey a victim, survivor, and should not be a part of these particular funds. So the question is only, were you affected? And just about everybody who was living in Houston, Harris County at the time, anywhere on the coast of it, like, probably could answer affirmatively to that question. Um, as you may know, our homeless count increased by 3.7%, 3.9%. Everyone had difficulties with, jobs closing, work closing, houses being damaged, all kinds of things. So kind of think about this and don't deep dive too much after that.
We have another DR question. Please confirm the jurisdiction for service delivery. Is it Harris County proper, Harris County wider, City of Houston, or a combination of the above?
It is Harris County outside of the city of Houston. All other cities are good, but the city of Houston, they have their own public service dollars.
We have a question for CV. Are there any salary caps for personnel?
Salary caps. Um,
I would think you would need to be, all costs, including salaries, should be able to be reasonable and verifiable. So what is reasonable in the market? We do not, I believe, have a cap on salary. But we will be looking at them as, is this a reasonable cost? CFR 200 kind of talks a lot about reasonable costs. And so we would need to make sure that those costs are reasonable, and that they make sense in today's market.
Question for both. Are projects in the city of Pasadena eligible?
Yes. So all cities but the city of Houston for DR fund, CBG DR, and I'm only speaking to DR, are eligible as long as they're within Harris County, but outside the city of Houston. All other 33 cities are good for the CBG DR. Tasha, do you want to take CB?
CV, if it's a homeless project, it's good. And I don't know if there's a waiver, and so I would need to check to see if there's a waiver. But CDBG, CV Public Services would follow the rule of public services, so it's Harris County service areas in the 12 cooperating cities. So let me check on to see if there's a waiver for CDBG CV for service area.
So,
But if it's
but definitely not inside the city of Houston,
yeah, not
not
inside the
inside
city
of
Houston.
Baytown or Pasadena,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
But inside of Harris County, would that be a true statement?
Yes.
At least for the start.
Yes. Yes. The homeless projects, we don't have a service area.
For DR eligibility, is it current residency or residency at time of Harvey? What if someone lived in city of Houston at the time of Harvey, but are now in county outside of city of Houston?
It is at the day of service. Where do you live on the day of service?
Ashley, are there no more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks like we have kind of dried up on questions. Are we ready to conclude this meeting? I know we have the ability, you can ask questions to us in other ways. Tasha, do you want to go over that real quick?
Yes, you can submit questions to rfp@csd.hctx.net or to Jeremy Woodard at per.hctx.net. The last day to submit your questions will be this Friday, May 12th. Again, we hope to have all of the questions and answers posted to our website by the 16th, along with the recording of this meeting. And I know that there were a lot of bonfire questions. I hope to have that settled by tomorrow afternoon. I wrote all those questions down. I'm sorry that it's very confusing. Okay, well, if no one else has any questions at this time,
Do you have the
yes.
RFP email? Somebody's asking, or can you put it in the chat, the RFP email slide, or put it in the chat, please?
The RFP email slide?
They're asking, can you repeat the RFP email or put it in the chat?
Okay,
Probably just put it in the chat. It'll probably be the easiest.
yes. Let me get rid of this right here. Escape this. So I can see what I'm doing.
I got it, Tasha.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Tasha, for a great presentation today.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for your assistance
Not a
answering
problem.
those hard questions.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.